Hey, we're on air. Hey, and welcome to the Hot Tag Podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Tom.
And we ain't got Mike this week because he's tired because he started working again. And he's like working in like a pit, like laying wire. So I let him go tonight. I said, yeah, man, you don't have to come on. We don't need you to take up all our time tonight.
Yeah. All right.
So we're gonna try to dive right into this and knock this out hopefully pretty quick and pretty easily. But there's been lots of information gonna come at you kind of quick. It's been a pretty busy couple weeks since we did a show last. We do need to get a little more consistent with that, but we're busy gentlemen. So
yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. All right, let's start with something that troubles me, but at the same time, we say it time and time again. We look for TNA to succeed because if there's legitimate competition, McMahon has to do something.
Yeah, he has to up his game if he has some legit competition.
We saw what happened in 2015. You get a really shit year. It was, the highlights being that, that they didn't allow Roman Reigns to win at WrestleMania, and that Rollins pretty much carried the year, even though they booked him very poorly.
They booked his matches poorly,
right?
But I think as a whole, I think he was booked. I don't want to say he was booked great, but I did kind of like the cowardly, kind of keep hanging on to this title at all costs, and at times beating the odds.
Right, and that's
whether it was the ill-advised Undertaker interference at
whatever
SummerSlam. Whatever pay-per-view that was. But yeah, I like to, I think his future reigns will be better. But I did like that, and unfortunately, it came to an end sooner than I think we had all would have hoped.
Right, maybe by 2 weeks, but
but I mean, I think it would have. I think the storyline with that would have been set up nicely had he been able to, had he not gotten hurt. I think there would have been a great storyline involving him.
Right, and we never wish harm on any of our our favorite stars. But
and I like him. I like him. I liked him. I liked him with the Shield, and he was that guy in the Shield that nobody was really talking about. It was always Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and I like the two of them too. But I just saw that thing in Rollins that was like, okay, he's going to be, if they give him a shot, he's going to be something special, and they did.
Right. And if you go back and watch some of the old Tyler Black videos from the Indies or from NXT, I saw a great video where he used to do a moonsault where he would run up the turnbuckles and he would do a moonsault off of it. And he was at an indie show and he did it off of a fat guy. He ran up the guy's belly and jumped off of him into like the third row, and then went over and high-fived the guy because the guy stood there and took it. Like, this guy was like 500 or 600 pounds. Like, he was huge, and not that there's anything wrong with that. But it was just amazing to see him. He just ran up the guy's front and then did a moonsault off of him, and it was cool. Yeah, so I know what you're talking about there, but like I said, the whole thing here is good competition will create better stories, more action, less of the 20-minute introductory promos by Triple H and that kind of stuff. Well, TNA was like, well, we've been on 4 channels in the last 6 years, so we're gonna switch again. After they were on Destination America for, I don't know, 10 episodes or something like that.
And not only is the bouncing around hurt them, but the fact that their shows are taped like 6 months in advance at this point.
Right. There's still like, I think Bully Ray is still showing up every once in a while, and he's been on Raw since August or July.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, wait a minute. Come on. You're not fooling anybody. But basically, they moved to this other channel called Pop, and they were all about it. And they had their first show, 250,000 people tuned in. Not a good number.
No, not a good number at all.
Then they got dealt another blow. Comcast has decided that Pop, the network that they air on, is no longer going to be in the standard tier. They're moving it up to a different tier where you have to pay more in order to get that channel. So if anyone was watching in order to watch TNA, now you have to upgrade your cable bill. So instead of paying $150 a month, you may have to pay $200 a month. To me, is that $50 worth watching TNA?
I'm not paying. I am not paying that $50 to watch TNA.
No.
And TNA's got some good talent, or Impact, or whatever the hell it's called these days.
Yeah,
has got some good talent, and like some talent that I enjoyed that we thought was gonna be running around in NXT actually just re-signed with TNA, and it was just James Storm, and he just reformed Beer Money with Bobby Roode, which I always liked Beer Money. I thought it was a great tag team.
Right. I really think this. I don't think it was an on-purpose decision. It's just one of those things. This is for Comcast only. So if you have Dish Network or another cable provider, I'm not saying it's changing, but Comcast has made this change. So if you have Comcast, like I do, because there's nothing else around, it's either that or Dish, and I'm not gonna have it go all crazy on me when it rains or snows around here. Yeah. So, because Verizon isn't down in my area yet, we don't have that network yet. Yeah. So it seems like every time TNA builds up ready to get back, and we get a little bit excited that, hey man, maybe TNA will put up a fight, something happens. It seems to me like they are destined to fail, and that the universe is just telling them something. You know what I mean? And it disappoints me because, like you said, there are a lot of great guys. Ethan Carter III, he was in NXT. He got cut. He is their champion. He's their champion.
And actually, he's not their champion anymore. Matt Hardy is their champion now. No. As of this weekend, he was their champion.
Oh, okay. Because
as of currently, not as to what they're showing on TV.
Well, I thought they had a pay-per-view because Hardy had to give up the title.
I'm pretty sure he held the title this weekend. They were at Sands Casino, and they were I think out in Bethlehem, and I think he had the title.
Okay, all right, it's no problem.
I just on that, but I'm pretty sure Matt Hardy had the title.
Well, the last I had heard was Ethan Carter. Oh, here it is. Matt Hardy is the current champion in his second reign. Oh, he defeated Ethan Carter III in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So there you go. I read it wrong.
Our Lord and Savior.
Yes. And the steel industry.
Yes.
And some pretty scary looking towns.
Yes.
Not Lewistown.
I'm finding that a lot. No, not quite Lewistown.
Nothing will ever.
But
anyway,
nothing will ever top.
We promise.
I digress. We promise to never speak on that again.
I
just think that this is kind of it for TNA. I think it's just. I think this is where they're at, and I think this is where they're going to be.
Well, and if they continue, this is where they're going to be, because Kurt Angle already made the announcement that he is retiring from TNA, not from wrestling, from TNA, which means I think his contract is up at the end of March, and unfortunately, there's no big wrestling pay-per-views at the beginning of April at all anywhere else.
No,
so it'd be a shame if he had to show up and win some sort of battle royal named after a gigantic man who always asked us if anybody wanted a peanut.
Yes, but I don't know anything that might be that.
Yeah, not in the area of Texas at all. So anyway, basically what we're getting to is if TNA had 9 lives, this is 9. So this
is I don't know if it's 9, but it's at least 8.5.
If they don't make it this time, I don't know how many other channels there are. Are they going to be on Disney? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I just, I the thing that kept WCW competitive back in the day was that it was on Turner and it was owned by Turner.
Right. And they had
So they were
unlimited
able
buckets of money.
They had unlimited buckets of money. Obviously, when they were signing away all the talent from Vince,
Right.
And Impact doesn't have that, and I don't know what the answer is.
Well, the answer
they've
is
they've tried a bunch of different things. They've tried to, they tried bringing in the old guard. They tried the 6-sided ring, which I still don't like. I know a lot of people do like it because it's different. I'm not a fan because it makes the ring look small, and that was one of the things that I hated about WCW the entire time. And I watched when the NWO was hot. I watched Nitro religiously.
Right.
It would be, I would switch back and forth, but I would watch both shows. And that was one of the biggest complaints I always had about WCW was the ring looked small.
It was though.
It was small. It was small.
I think WWE uses a 20-foot sided ring, and I think they used a 16 or an 18.
Yeah. So and TNA with the 6 sides, at times it lends itself to interesting spots, but at the other time, I think it kind of handicaps spots as well. So that never really did it for me. And then, then they started the changing of they kind of got rid of the old guard, after they brought in, Nash and Hall and Hogan and Bischoff and all that. And then I thought they started gaining some ground a little bit, at least with it being somewhat interesting, with the whole Aces and Eights thing.
Well, not just that, they created that X division and they pushed it hard. So you had these guys
was amazing.
Right. Well, you had these guys that weren't 6'8" and 300 pounds. You had, the cruiserweight division circa 1999, where you had people like Juventud and stuff running around and doing cool spots and, just actually out wrestling. And also He Who Shall Not Be Named by anybody anymore because they were supposed to tap out. And, Dean Malenko and guys like that and Jericho and stuff like that. You had those.
And that is one of in the history of the Monday Night Wars, that is a part that gets overlooked the NWO was big and a lot of people tuned in for the NWO, myself being one. And I'm still a huge NWO guy, all these years later. But, it was those cruiserweight matches. It was the Jerichos and the Malenkos and the Benoits and the Mysterios and the, Juventudes and Jushin Liger and Eddie. That really sold that division and made it something to watch. And the thing that, and WCW did a huge disservice to that division because you have these, 5-star matches going on. And all they'd be talking about was what Hulk Hogan was going to do later in the show.
Right. You have like Kidman versus Juventud, and you're getting a candidate for match of the year, and they're Schiavone talking about that Hulk Hogan. What is he going to do tonight? Who's he going to spray paint? And you're just like, do you not see the match going on, Michael Cole? Tony Schiavone. Same difference.
I miss Tony Schiavone.
I do.
With Michael Cole, I miss Tony Schiavone.
He had more.
And that's saying a lot because I hated Tony Schiavone. I hated Tony Schiavone.
Makes you miss Hermes a little bit.
A little bit.
Although he's on Ring of Honor, so you can listen.
Yeah.
They're
doing well on Ring of Honor, actually.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love Ring of Honor. Which a little bit of a transition here. Apparently, moving away from TNA, not to, step on them and move on, but it's a starting point. Mentioning Ring of Honor, apparently, Tommaso Ciampa signed with NXT.
Oh,
apparently. I don't know if this is fact.
Well, that's kind of a
or
nice
maybe little. Or was it Gargano? They were both wrestling for NXT as like per appearance, but I think they signed one of them, if not both of them. as
Yeah.
talent, which I think is fantastic because both of them are really good wrestlers.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's as a whole there's some new talent, and that talent is in the form of a bunch of members of the Bullet Club.
I have no idea what you speak of, sir. I only hear rumors.
I only hear rumors, but I did happen to see a match that took place in New Japan involving one AJ Styles.
Didn't the Bullet Club turn on him?
The Bullet Club turned on one AJ Styles.
And that's an interesting thing that they would do that.
And it was very interesting that they would do that. And then the crowd chanted, "Thank you, AJ."
As if
So,
he was doing
as if maybe he was leaving for a curtain call. He was leaving, heading towards maybe some greener pastures.
Right. Maybe that he may or may not show up somewhere in the next few weeks in a very large match.
Yeah, you don't know.
You don't know.
But you don't know. And I mean, there seem to be, some other guys that might be following him, like Doc Gallows, formerly known as Luke Gallows and Festus. But he's kind of where he kind of floundered in as with the Festus character and the Luke Gallows character for a little bit, kind of gained some footing in TNA with Aces and Eights.
They called him Doc, right?
They called him Doc, so he's still going by Doc. He's been going by Doc Gallows.
Okay.
But rumors that he's coming along. Nakamura's coming along.
Well, and it's my understanding that Nakamura may have relinquished his IGWP Intercontinental belt over the weekend.
I've heard that as well.
That not that he lost it, but that he decided to relinquish it. And now his contract does not end with New Japan until February 1st. So
he might be.
I mean, it's not like he's taking the fast lane to another federation or anything, pun intended. But
there were a couple other members that a couple other wrestlers that I'd been hearing. But they, from what I understand, a good portion of them have re-signed or are staying with New Japan.
Right.
But that is interesting. And Triple H has not been has kind of been trying to play a little coy with it, but not doing a very good job. And Finn Balor has not been doing a good job of it either.
Well, when you have a picture on your Twitter, and not just on your Twitter, your licensed WWE Twitter, at the front office, holding the door open, looking at your hand like you're looking at the watch, saying, "I thought they'd be here by now,"
and wearing a Bullet Club shirt,
which they have yet to refer to it as. They were calling it the Balor Club. Does that mean that they put in and purchased the copyrights for it?
That's going to be interesting if they did.
If they did, what happened?
Because that's the other thing I'm hearing is that the members of the Bullet Club that have stayed in New Japan are now starting to refer to themselves, I believe, as the Elite.
That is interesting, isn't it?
So
it's as if they aren't allowed to call themselves the Bullet Club anymore for some legal reason or something.
I'm not holding my breath with that, and I'm kind of hoping I'm kind of hoping in a way that that's not the case, because if it doesn't work out, I'd like to be able to see them to reform the Bullet Club elsewhere.
Right. No, that makes sense.
But it is something that is used in Ring of Honor, because most of the members of the Bullet Club have wrestled in Ring of Honor.
Right.
And Ring of Honor has a pretty decent working relationship with Vince.
They do, yes.
So that's kind of interesting,
right?
So we'll see. We got the Rumble coming up in a few weeks.
I think it was 2 weeks.
Actually, it's a week and a half, 2 weeks maybe.
Yeah,
is it this Sunday?
It's the 24th. It's the last. Yeah, it's the last Sunday in January.
All right.
So That's big. What's bigger is that what has developed over the last few weeks in a promising storyline that Roman Reigns will now be putting his title up against 29 other men. In one shape or form, this has only ever happened once before, and that was in '92. But that was because the belt was vacated. Abeyance had a hold of that title really tightly.
He had a very good hold on that title.
Yeah. And in '92, that's when my brother and I talk about it, especially when we talk about debuts at the Royal Rumble. If you go back and look, not many people that debut for their very first time on TV at the Royal Rumble ever really truly pan out in the long run. We saw Rusev in Pittsburgh when we went a couple of years ago. He made his, debut there. We know that he was fantastic until the Cena machine ran over him.
Yeah, and with Rusev, I didn't even know who he was. I mean, I think I turned to you and I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
And it was when they were still calling him Alexander Rusev, because I had just started watching NXT, so I was like, who the hell is this big Russian dude? I guess Bulgarian is what they were still calling him at the time before they went to that weird Russian stuff and then cooled that off real quick. But Bo Dallas, a couple of years ago, he showed up out of nowhere.
Was he the same? Was he at the same one?
No, it wasn't the same one. It was,
or was it last year?
That was 2011 or 12.
Really, that long ago?
Right, because he dumped Wade Barrett out of the Rumble when he was still Intercontinental Champion before.
That's right. Before he was doing the whole Bo leave thing, I think.
Right. Because then he went down to it's when him and Steamboat's boy were feuding before Steamboat's boy had to retire due to a back injury, which is
it's a shame.
Was promising. But so my brother and I were talking about that, and he was like, with Royal Rumble debuts, you don't get anything that pans out. And I was like, Ric Flair? And he goes, well, wait a minute. And I said, all you said was Royal Rumble debuts. The fact that Ric Flair was 43 and had a 30-year career already, and walked in and won in his very first wrestling match, because he had been there for, 4 or 5 months, and he just carried around the big gold belt that they blurred out because he took it when he left WCW.
Because he owned it.
He owned it, exactly.
He owned the belt.
Right. So I used that as my trump card when my brother asked that, and he goes, I guess. And I said, no, it's true. He walked in, and the very first match he had, he won WWE Championship. I mean, in technicality. But I agree with him, and the reason this conversation comes up is I talk about Balor or Sami Zayn, even though Zayn's already been on Raw a few times, that pretty great match he had with Cena with one arm, which still don't know how the hell he did that, but I would not be surprised to see some NXT guys, especially since the Rumble's in Orlando.
Yeah. I would like to see some NXT guys show up. I think I don't know if he's back yet, but I know Sammy should be close to returning if he hasn't returned yet.
He's been doing house shows for NXT. So I'm sure that means he's pretty much ready to go. But it'd be nice to see him show up. That'd be a nice little pop if he showed up at the Rumble. I'm not saying he's going to win, but having a good solid run. I'd
like to see him show up.
Right. Now, if we get to that point where we start talking about who do you think is going to win the Rumble for the first time in 3 years, there's nothing definite. I mean, I'm telling you, who's winning the Royal Rumble right now?
John Cena.
No, he is. He's going to do it from his hospital bed.
He's going to do it from his fucking hospital bed because he's fucking John Cena. John Cena is going to wheel his ass down, arm in a sling, and throw out 29 other guys.
Did you see the meme of John Cena visiting John Cena in the hospital? Oh my god, that was genius. I was like, oh, it was fantastic. But like I said, like last year, everyone pretty much knew that Roman Reigns was going to win because they were pushing him. And especially once Daniel
Yeah.
Bryan got thrown out, I was in Philly and I was scared for my life because, people got really angry when that happened. 2 years ago when we were in Pittsburgh, we all pretty much knew that Batista was promised a win for the Royal Rumble because we knew that Guardians of the Galaxy was coming out and they wanted him to have the title on his, person when he was doing all the wonderful publicity stuff, because you know how they love that. The previous year, we knew Cena was going to win because The Rock beat CM Punk, and the only person that can take out The Rock, we wanted Vince wanted the match that'll only happen once, but really twice. I believe you were in attendance for that match.
I was, and I walked out of it before the 3 count.
As you should have.
I was back at the car. I think I was back at the car waiting for Mike before the fireworks even finished.
Wow. That's impressive. But I don't blame you whatsoever.
That might have been the fastest I've ever moved because I was so pissed off. Not to mention it was like either that or I was gonna like beat the hell and this is like I was so happy to be at a WrestleMania, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I had this giant tool bag like a row or so in front of me that was drunk off his ass and must have been a Randy Orton fan because through the entire fucking pay-per-view he would stand up and do that Randy Orton throw the arms up in the air thing.
And you couldn't see shit.
And I couldn't see shit. It was hard to see anyway because I was kind of nosebleedy. So I was watching. I was watching a lot of I was watching a lot on the big screen, and I was in a section where I missed most of Taker's entrance, which really sucked. I didn't get to see the hands coming up, the 20 cents of hands coming up through the stage until I got it on DVD. So,
but the thing about that is you were in attendance for his very last win before the streak was broken. So
I was
kind of a big fucking deal. But so talking about the Royal Rumble, like I said, this year with the title being on the line, there's no guaranteed winner. They could swerve everybody and anybody. I know there's some heavy favorites. Now that Brock Lesnar has been entered, he's a favorite. Obviously, you have to put Roman Reigns in there just because he's seen a number 2.
Does Reigns walk out with the title?
No.
Really?
No.
You don't think so?
No. I have 3. Sorry.
Okay.
3 different, very different outcomes.
Okay.
The first one, which I feel to be the most far-fetched one, is that your final 5 or 6 are going to be the guys you know are going to be there. Reigns, Ambrose, maybe Ziggler, Lesnar, Owens.
Yeah,
I think Owens is going to be your Iron Man this year. I think
Owens is going to have a good showing.
He's going to be the guy that comes in like 4, 5, or 6 and stays in the entire time until the end. But like I said, my very first and least likely thing to happen, Undertaker comes in at 30 and wins.
Yeah.
They give him that last rodeo to Dallas, where he's the championship and he defends it against someone except for he loses. And the person who beats him gets the title. You want to talk about a fucking rub. In his hometown, The Undertaker at WrestleMania, as much as that doesn't mean as it did before, it's still beating The Undertaker at WrestleMania and getting that title. The problem with that is you have everything riding on The Undertaker, that he doesn't get hurt or that, he can carry a decent main event match with somebody. You know what I mean? So that's why I think it's far-fetched. Unless they have him win and then lose at Fastlane or something, which just doesn't make sense to me. My second thought is Lesnar wins. He doesn't have to be in for a long time. He can come in 28, 29, 30. I don't care.
Yeah.
But then when he comes in, he just annihilates everybody. And that's that. And
That's possible, but I'm hearing rumblings of Owens Lesnar for Mania.
and that's what where my third one comes in, which that plays into. I think Bray Wyatt wins.
I would love to see that.
I think a foreshadowing of that was on Raw.
Okay, I missed Raw this week, so I didn't.
Okay,
I
well,
didn't see it.
The final match was Roman Reigns versus everybody. There was 19 guys at ringside, and apparently the rules were they would keep sending people in the ring one at a time until Roman Reigns couldn't finish. So basically, It was a continuing. I don't want to call it a. I play them all the time on the video game when they just keep sending people out and keep sending.
Oh, like a gauntlet.
Yeah. It wasn't a gauntlet. I mean, it was, but it wasn't because there was no definitive end. Him and Owens went for about 15 minutes, and then when Owens got knocked out of the ring, that's when the New Day and a bunch of other people jumped in and just started beating the hell out of him. And the Wyatt family refused to get in the ring when Vince McMahon told them to go after him.
Oh.
They just stood there and watched. All four of them. Okay. People are going, "Oh, it's a face turn." I said, "It's not a face turn. They're just anti-authoritarian. Like they don't care what Vince has to say." Yeah. So they stood there the entire time and watched Roman Reigns get beat down by Sheamus and 9 other people, and that's when Lesnar showed up and cleared the ring, and then F5'd Reigns. Here's what I think happens. So you have your final 6 or 7 in the ring, and you've only had 29 guys come in. Owens gets knocked out of the ring, thrown out, eliminated. And as Lesnar comes in, they like shoulder bump each other because you know how Owens is. He's sitting there probably complaining about that he got thrown out or whatever. And Lesnar doesn't give a rat's ass about anybody, so he just get out of my way.
Yeah.
And then I see Owens grabbing a weapon, like a chair or something, and screwing Lesnar. And that sets up your WrestleMania match.
Okay.
So, it's kind of that same way that the 92 Hulk Hogan Sid Justice thing, even though that was a poor match at best. But you know what I'm talking about, like at WrestleMania 8, where like they faced, and even though it was terrible, but I think it's kind of that way, where Lesnar is going to get screwed by Owens. Now, with that said, I think Triple H is going to be in the Rumble.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Triple H is in the Rumble.
I think he comes down 28-29, and his only goal is to get Roman Reigns out. He doesn't want to win.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't want to win. He doesn't need to win.
Right.
He just wants to cost Reigns the title because Reigns beat the hell out of him.
Right. And maybe that's why he hasn't been on TV, is because on WWE TV, he is selling the hell out of that beating that he took at the end of December, which fantastic. But, I really think that's what it is you have Triple H in there just to get Reigns out. Doesn't matter what Triple H does. I don't care. He could be eliminated by whomever at that point in time. It doesn't matter. But I think your number 30 is going to be Bray Wyatt. And I think just when you think that he's unable to beat down 5 or 6 other guys, Braun Strowman gets involved. And then, or 4 of the last 10 guys are the Wyatt family. And they help him clear the ring, and then he tells them to just leave. And they all eliminate each themselves. And that'll get him some real good, like, nuclear heat, but not like that X-Pac heat.
Yeah.
It won't be like when Kane and Big Show were dumping people last year and everyone just started booing. It'll be just like, all right, well played. So I think that's what happens. I think this year might be the year of Wyatt. Every year they build these great promos up, and then he just never like the pay-per-view comes and it's like, oh, he loses.
Yeah.
or he wins, but it's like a fluky win, and you're like, and not like a good fluky where like the family helps him. It's like, oh, the monitor exploded in Dean Ambrose's face, so he won.
Yeah.
But like, you're like, okay, well, if that didn't explode in his face, would he have won?
Yeah.
No. So I really think that, and I'm gonna stand by that one. That I really think that this year your Royal Rumble winner is going to be Bray Wyatt. Not that I believe he needs a title, but I believe that's the best. That's the best story going to WrestleMania.
And I'm of the mindset of I don't like this idea of the title being any title being up for grabs in a battle royal.
Right.
Because I think it cheapens the title. We saw that with the US title a bunch of years ago. And that finally started to get some credibility back when Cena had it, and now it's being hot potatoed a little bit.
Yeah, it depends on.
It was lost. It's been lost and won back in the past 3 days.
Right. I thought they were going to give Kalisto
a shot. Yeah, me too.
And apparently, spoiler alert, he loses it tomorrow on SmackDown. But that also sets up a pretty good feud between those two. And I thought their match on Monday was fantastic. It really was. And I'm not a big Del Rio fan.
Yeah.
In general. But I do like Kalisto. I'm glad they're pushing him and not holding him back since Sin Cara Dos got hurt. I'm glad they're not doing the old Jimmy J Uso where, one's hurt so the other one can't
one's
wrestle.
One's hurt and the other one, the other one is off TV for 6 months.
Right, and then they win the Slammy for best tag team of the year somehow, and I'm like,
which was just I don't know. I mean, the Slammies are
garbage, right? They're
garbage. I mean, they're at the Slammies, and I mean, this is funny saying this, about wrestling, which is
right,
not real at all. But the Slammies are about as legitimate as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I was going to say the Slammies are about as legitimate as the Grammys, because everybody knows those are bought and paid for long before.
Oh, absolutely.
But yes, agreed. It's basically a sham inside a sham. But so that's my call. I agree with you that that having the title does devalue it that way.
I think the only way I really think the only way that the title doesn't get devalued is if Reigns hangs on to it, and Reigns to hang on to it. And he's got to come in early,
right, and do a Cena where he's against the odds in the corner. There's no way he's going to win, and despite whomever, the League of Nations and Triple H and anybody else and Lesnar, he still has to win legitimately, and the fans have to enjoy it. And I think that's too predictable.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, my money is still I'm still kind of in his corner, I guess, for him to walk out with the title.
Yeah, because it'd be cool.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. And I kind of agree with any of those people that, you picked. I also wouldn't mind if somebody, does come in and wins the title that we weren't expecting. Wasn't one of those three.
Right.
But I don't know who. I don't know who.
I'll tell you who. And my brother asked me. He set up this situation. He said, "If this happens, what would you do?" And I said, after I wiped the poop out of my pants and I got done marking out, I would go back and watch it again. And he proposed, what if AJ Styles shows up and wins the title?
Yeah, I would, and I am not an AJ Styles guy by any stretch of the imagination.
And neither am I. I met him, nice guy, just never did anything for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's talented, but he just never. For me, he just never really did anything. But I'm with him coming in. I'm intrigued with the whole. I'm intrigued with the whole Bullet Club thing because I love a good faction.
Oh yeah. We both but we're from that time frame of the '90s where you had Nation of Domination against the corporation against the corporate ministry. Yeah,
I'm older than you, so
I
I
know.
go back a little further than that.
Right.
I
Well,
go back to this. And
well,
this is what I stand for. I
okay.
stand for the Four Horsemen.
I
They
got
are
you.
my NWO guy, but the Horsemen are
Yeah,
the Horsemen to me are the best faction ever.
absolutely.
Dominant and not I mean where Flair held gold,
They all
Tully
had
and Arn held gold. They all held gold.
Right. No, and I agree with you. So, but yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens. But I told my brother, even if Styles shows up, I will mark out. Just
Oh yeah, well that was talking about it, a long time ago with Samoa Joe, where like I've never been a Samoa Joe guy.
Neither was I.
He's got talent, but he never did anything for me. He just was a big Samoan guy.
He was a
his matches with Punk. His matches with Punk, if you haven't seen them, find them. I'm sure they're on YouTube somewhere. Find them. They're amazing. His matches with Punk in Ring of Honor were legendary.
Right. I believe Punk's last match in Ring of Honor was against him. Wasn't it? I believe.
It was either against him or Chris Hero.
Oh yeah, it could have been Hero.
I think it was Joe. I think and those matches, if you can find any of the Punk Chris Hero matches from anywhere, watch them as well.
Yeah.
But like Joe showing up on NXT
was huge.
We all marked out.
I marked out. I think we were doing I think we were doing a podcast when that was happening, and I was just I was freaking out.
Yeah.
So even if Joe shows up at the Rumble, I think I would mark out a bit, because anytime you get a guy like that on the main roster, that's fantastic. Although, I don't know if they would ever use him again, because it would just kind of be one of those once and done, and then back to NXT.
Yeah.
For the time being. I don't know if he's ever in the plans to continue, but yeah, so Rumble's going to be huge. Don't know if you just heard. Well, I guess it hasn't aired yet. Spoiler alert again. Dean Ambrose will be facing Owens in a last man standing match for the Intercontinental Belt.
Oh,
at Royal Rumble. Yes, so they will be. They will both compete.
They'll both be in the Rumble, and
then they'll both be in the Rumble too. So that means you're going to have a good, because those two work together very well. The stories haven't been great, just because the stories haven't been great. But I just think that match could steal the show.
Oh yeah.
If you get anything like that where it's like a last man standing match, that means what? That they have to be down for a 10 count and they can't answer it, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no disqualification, there's no countouts. It's just if you're on the ground and the ref counts 10,
you just have to not be able to stand up. You know, there's always that way to get around it where they put something heavy on them. I think in one of the full man standing matches was I think like The Rock or Foley forklift on something like it was couldn't not meet the 10 count. Well, I don't want to see each other, and then I want to see them beat the hell out of each other, and both go down, and neither one of them meet the 10 count, and then show up and then be in the Royal Rumble.
Right. Okay. All right.
And do well in the Royal Rumble.
Does that mean Abeyance wins the Intercontinental Belt? That son of a bitch, does he win the belt again?
What's that?
I said if neither of them can reach the 10 count, answer the 10 count, does that mean Abeyance wins his 10th Intercontinental belt in the last 2 years?
No. But yeah, I would love to see that at last man standing, either one of them meets the 10 count, and then kind of like the rest of the show, they just talk about how, and we know this isn't going to happen because.
Did I lose you?
You have them both come in early and have them last. Oh, lost Tom.
Did I lose you? You're frozen on the screen.
I'm
here. You're just frozen.
I think you disappeared for a minute.
Okay. Well, you're frozen on my screen right now. I can hear you, but you're frozen on the screen. Hello? Hello? Did I lose you again?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Fucking A!
We made it almost the whole way! Oh, man. Well, then, yeah, I agree with you 100% there that, those two go to neither being able to answer the 10 count, and then they show up as number 1 and 2, and they go the entire distance. That would be just bold. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what you were saying. You're back now. Hey, all right. But I think that would be very bold, and that would be very good for the Rumble. So, yeah. But they don't have any other matches other than those 2 matches scheduled right now, and that concerns me.
Yeah.
I think my guess is Del Rio will face Kalisto again at the Royal Rumble. I can only hope the tag belts are up for grabs, but I don't know who the hell they're gonna defend it against because I don't know. But I don't know. Could be interesting. Rumble is definitely it's gonna be worth the $10. Totally worth the $10. Especially with 6 or 7 guys out, major players out. So, but I think we'll get a decent women's match with Becky Lynch and Charlotte. I like where that's going, with Charlotte being kind of the heel again. I think she plays a much better heel and a much more convincing heel than a face. But I think that just runs.
Absolutely.
I think that just runs in her blood. Because I know when you hit that quote unquote legend status, you're always a face in the eyes of the WWE. Once you kind of go in the Hall of Fame, it doesn't matter how bad you were. Even the Sheik is a face at this point in time, just because he goes on those crazy tirades and everyone just thinks it's funny. But it's like back in the day, people threw shit at him because he was the Iron fucking Sheik.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how true that is, because it seems from what I'm hearing, Lawler might have made a little bit of a turn on SmackDown.
Oh yeah. Or is that because they needed a heel guy to go along with the new boxing commentator, who everybody tells me is actually tolerable?
Really?
Yeah.
But I don't ever watch SmackDown.
Yeah, neither do I. And now that it's on USA as well, maybe I'll actually have an opportunity to catch it or DVR it or something. But it's still a secondary show, and they need to do something about that. But I think Rumble could be the beginning of a huge 2016.
Yeah, I agree.
They did a lot of bad stuff last year, but one of the good things they did was in the last 2 weeks when they did that whole, Reigns got cashed in on, and then they realized that, oh shit, Sheamus is a terrible champion. They watched those two call each other tater tots for an hour, or at least that's what it felt like. And I wanted to put a bullet in my brain base. And then they pulled the trigger and they're like, you know what? We now feel like you'll like Roman Reigns. And they did. And it was like, okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, I don't really know what the thinking was there. I don't think Sheamus is a horrible champion.
No.
But it was kind of like the lesser of two evils at that point, I guess. Like they had to get the briefcase off of him.
Right.
That's kind of what happened. That's kind of what's happened with a lot of the guys that have held the briefcase. You rarely have that Rollins, I think, was kind of the exception to the rule where it really worked out. You have somebody cash in, or, with the briefcase, and early on, I guess, when Edge cashed in and Punk cashed in,
right?
But at least Punk the second time, because when Punk won the first time, he was kind of buried on the card anyway.
But I mean, even when Ziggler won, despite having the injury and then having to vacate the title, that was a huge night. Like
that was a huge night.
That was the night after.
That was the night after I was at WrestleMania, and that was
in Jersey.
We were all hoping that he was cashing in at WrestleMania.
Right.
And that would have been the only time like I would have really been pissed off about leaving early, like I did.
Right.
But
if that would have happened. But
if that would have happened, I would have been pissed.
Well, and I just thought of something interesting is I'm wondering if they're second guessing things now because, well, I guess it wouldn't have been that way. But do you think they wish that someone would still have the briefcase because you get through the Rumble, someone wins, and they know that someone's waiting because that would be perfect. But then again, it would take away from if you get then you would know that a new guy isn't going to win the title because it's not like, oh, Wyatt's going to win and then someone's going to cash in on him and beat him, and you're just like, that doesn't make any sense. But
yeah, I
still
still don't really like the title being being up for grabs in a battle royal. But
no, I understand.
Nothing we can do to change that.
No. But you know what? I think whomever comes out of that will be better off for it. And they're going to set – I think your card for WrestleMania, at least 3 of the matches will be set at Rumble. I really think that's where you get your Triple H Reigns match, which I think was originally going to be Rollins and Triple H if he hadn't gotten hurt. You're going to get Lesnar Owens set up, and then the champion. I guess at Fastlane they're going to have some sort of a number 1 contenders match or something. To
I don't know where they're going with this.
Maybe an elimination chamber match. Maybe they bring that back. Just not an entire pay-per-view, but like you just have that one match for a number 1 contender spot. I don't know.
I don't know. I really don't know where they go with it, and I don't know if they really know where they go with it.
No, I think they kind of pulled the trigger when everyone started getting hurt, and
and that's kind of the problem that's a problem that they've created for themselves, where they let Cena bury every credible threat over the past handful of years. Anybody that got any kind of momentum was immediately put down by Cena. And now Cena's hurt, and Cena's not young by any stretch of the imagination anymore. He's one of those guys that, they really kind of need to keep out of, not necessarily forever, but, he's getting hurt a lot more.
Well, and my understanding is that his recovery from this surgery is going to take longer, and he's not in a rush because every time he gets injured, he's back before his date.
Yeah.
When he won the Rumble at number 30 after having neck surgery, he came back like 4 weeks early.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's great for draw and for money and for the company. But when it comes to your health, he was also 33 when he did that. He's not. Now he's 38, 39. Yeah. And to
I
me,
speak from experience. It ain't that easy to recover at that age.
and that's just a hangover. That's not
And
surgery.
that's just a hangover.
That's a hangover.
Forget going in a ring,
Right.
for 40 minutes.
I think this is the beginning. This is a blessing in disguise for him.
It is, but it's a blessing in disguise. But it's kind of the point where it's like, okay, now he's out, Orton's out. Orton, from what I'm hearing, doesn't really want to work full time anymore. And I'm a big Orton fan, but he's kind of earned the right to not want to have to work all the time.
Right, and I think he's
been one of the top guys in the company for 15 years now, or whatever.
Pretty much
close to it,
because he was the one they used to erase Brock Lesnar from the history books after Lesnar walked out as the youngest champion. They had Orton win it 22 or something like that, and that was back at like WrestleMania 19, 20 maybe, I don't know, something like that.
Lesnar walked out at 20 because Lesnar walked out at 20 because that is the worst WrestleMania match I've ever seen.
Oh no, that's him and Goldberg.
Oh
yeah, that's right. Okay, so 12, 13 years ago,
year or so.
Right. So Orton's about my age, 34, maybe 35, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
But I really think this is a blessing in disguise for Cena, because he'll take his time to get back, and by the time he comes back, he can say, well, I don't want to do 300 dates a year. I want to do 150 or 100. And they'll say, okay, but that means you have to be at every pay-per-view, which is 12 dates out of the year. So it's like, okay.
And the thing is, I think them, as much as I'm happy to have Lesnar there, and I like Lesnar, and I think what they do with him is fantastic, where they kind of keep him as that big draw, where he's not around all the time, but when he comes in, he just annihilates everybody.
And that's what he needs to do.
And that's exactly what he needs to do. But I think that's kind of going to handcuff him too, where you're going to get guys like that are older, like Cena and Orton, that have guys that have put their time in that don't want to work all the time. So now you're going to start getting into that, where well, hey, Lesnar's coming in and he's making this much money. Why am I,
right?
So I think that might come around to bite him. And I just think that this with a lot of their main guys being injured, I think that's starting to come around to bite them too, because they just don't have. They just haven't shown the faith in the younger guys, the guys that they should be building the show around. The Zigglers and the Cody Rhodes and all that.
And that the Stardust thing needs to end.
I really dug I dug the idea when it was him and
Goldust,
Dustin teaming up. And then we had talked about this in the past, is the way they could have wrapped that feud up and wrapped the character up.
Right.
But now he's just kind of drifting, and it's like, okay, this is a gimmick your brother did for 20 years. Why are you doing the same gimmick?
Well, and the worst part is the last 3 Raws, he's lost to Titus O'Neil. No disrespect. Clean.
They're starting to push Titus as a legit guy, which I like.
Except for he's 39.
Yeah, he's 39,
but he's in great shape.
He's in a great shape. He's got a good look. The fans kind of get behind him.
Right.
I feel bad for Darren Young, because again, that's kind of, where does that put Darren Young?
Well, he's hurt right now. His knee. That's why he hurt his knee.
Well, they were even starting to push. I think they were even starting to talk about pushing Titus on his own prior to that.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
As long as they actually push him and not do the half-ass thing they did a couple of years ago, where they split them up, and then all of a sudden Titus is like, I'm on my own. He did his thing, and then 3 weeks later, it's like, okay, no, that didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work, and then he was teaming with Heath Slater, who now has a new stable,
which I'm okay with.
Yeah, me too. I like that. It's the job squad for the new generation, but
it truly is. But you know what?
It's a handful of guys that they really weren't doing anything with, and hey, if they're getting some TV time,
Right. It's more time than Zack Ryder's getting.
yeah. Zack Ryder's been relegated to NXT.
Yeah.
He's teaming with what the hell's his name?
Rawley.
Mojo Rawley.
The Hype Bros, yo. Hype Bros.
Whatever.
I hate that. Sorry. But yeah,
And even there, they're getting buried because there's tag teams that are phenomenal in NXT. That just,
I cannot wait till Jordan and Gable come to the main roster. They are going to be huge.
I can't wait till any of them. Dash and Dawson.
I would love to see Dash and Dawson.
What's the other two? The two that held the title for a while.
Murphy and you know what? I don't think they're gonna come up that quick.
I don't think they're gonna come up that quick either, but they're gonna get there eventually.
Well, and here's the thing: is one of them, I don't remember which one's which. One of them's Australian, one of them's not. They got a DUI, and that's why they lost the title. So they kind of got buried. I also see Bailey coming up soon.
Yeah.
She has nothing else to prove down there.
She has nothing else to prove. She's super over. She's kind of what she's kind of what the Divas need in a way, but I'm afraid she's going to get to the main roster and get lost in the shuffle.
What are you talking about? That never happens, Tyler Breeze.
So she's not, she's not blonde with giant cans and
that's
whatever.
You mean she's not a model? You mean
she's not a model?
She looks like a normal person?
She's not a model who, she's not one of those models that has no business being in a wrestling ring.
We're looking
Marie.
Ashley Massaro.
Well, she,
Yeah, I know. Even Marie. Right.
It's sad, and this is going to be ridiculous for me to say, but it's sad when I can say that Snooki had a more memorable match than Eva Marie has ever had.
That is absolutely true.
And I gave Snooki all the credit in the world for the shit she pulled off in that ring. She had no business doing half of the shit she did. Shouldn't have been in the ring, but she did her thing, and great, she got paid for it. Eva Marie has no business being anywhere near a ring or near a microphone.
That is absolutely true. So there's a lot of stuff going on. They just need to put trust and faith in the youngsters. And I know they struggled with that in the late 80s and early 90s,
which is what put them in the hole to begin with. And it kind of feels like they've been in this hole for a while now.
Right. 2-3 years.
Where it's the hole that they created, and it's what's that saying, that those that don't learn from history are destined to repeat it?
Correct.
And that's what happened, where you had, this old guard of, Hogan, the Hogans, and, the Pipers, rest in peace, and those guys. And then you had the new guard of the Nashes and the Halls and the Michaels and the Harts and all that were better workers, but were never really, the product never gave them a shot to succeed.
Right. Which should really solidify why HBK should be in everybody's top 5 list of wrestling superstars, because he came out of that time frame where the very first Monday Night Raw, he wrestled Max Moon for the Intercontinental belt.
If HBK is not in someone's top 3 greatest of all time,
right,
they are wrong.
I agree with you 100%.
Because not only did he survive that era of the gimmicks and the cartoon characters to go on and become
Mr. WrestleMania,
Mr. WrestleMania, create, kind of usher in the Attitude Era with DX,
right,
and then have a career-ending back injury. His career was over.
Right.
And then to have him come back for what was going to be just a couple off, like, hey, you know, I can still kind of go a little bit, you know, matches with Triple H, to wrestling for like another 10 years.
Well, and not just that, coming back after that career-ending back injury and taking over the place, grabbing the torch back from Stone Cold, who was legitimately injured to the point where he was at, like Punk was, where he just kind of took his ball and he went home, even though he says, you know, that he wished he would have never done that. Shawn Michaels stepped in his mid-30s and said, okay, I will lead you to this next place. And he did so.
Yeah.
And he did a fantastic job of it with several match of the year candidacies against The Undertaker, too, when they were both in their late 40s.
Those Undertaker HBK matches are two of the greatest WrestleMania matches ever. I think the only WrestleMania match that I will put above those two is Savage Steamboat.
Yep.
Is Savage Steamboat.
Yep.
Because and that match I can watch over and over and over again. And again, if you haven't seen it, find it. It was WrestleMania 3. And that's the WrestleMania that everybody remembers for Hogan slamming Andre. But the match that stole the show was Savage Steamboat for the IC title.
Well, and that's the thing is, I'm trying to sit there, and I remember seeing an interview, and I want to say it was a podcast where I don't remember who they were talking to, and I don't want to misquote it. And someone said, "What is the greatest match in WrestleMania history?" And then they said, "Okay, WrestleMania 3. What was that marquee match that everybody remembers?" And the interviewer said, "Steamboat Macho Man." And he said, "No." He said that may have been the best wrestled match, but that's not the match everybody tuned in.
Everybody remembers Hogan slamming Andre.
Right. Or when Andre tripped and fell over the Invisible Man, as history would now show. But yeah, so you know, we're definitely in that weird place where, like, at, you know, what was it? It was WrestleMania 9 when they did the stupid Caesar's Palace thing, and, you know, Bret Hart lost, and then Hulk Hogan won the title again, and you were like, and then less than 6 months later, he was in WCW, and you're like, wait a minute, this is the new generation you're touting, and you gave Hogan the belt again.
Yeah.
Right. And he wasn't willing to lose to Hart either. So he lost to Yokozuna. He wasn't willing. Right.
Yeah.
He gave Flair a hard time because Flair wasn't willing to lose to Hogan at WrestleMania 8, which is why him and Macho Man had that match, which is still a pretty good match.
Oh, it was a fantastic match.
Which also shows you the respect he had for Macho, was that he was willing to take a loss to Randy, but not to Hogan.
Yeah.
That should tell you something. So, you know, it just, I don't know. I'm not saying that Cena's not willing to do the job, but it just seems to me like they're not willing to let him. It's because the merchandise. I know what it is. It's because the merchandise.
We know it's all because of the merchandise. And, you know, you have that where you say, is it management that is, you know, saying we don't want Cena to lose? You know, Cena can't ever look weak. That's a big part of it, but he's got to have some say in it. He's got to see what's happening. And I just hate him more and more every time I see him and every time you fucking mouth.
Did I ever tell you the story about when I was sitting second row at Hershey and I had a moment with him where I realized I have respect for him, and not just for the Make-A-Wish stuff, because I absolutely respect the guy for doing all that stuff. Absolutely. But there was a moment where he won his match, and of course there was his special invited guest sitting in the front row. Normally the military people or like mentally handicapped children or Make-A-Wish families or whatever. And he loves to do that kind of stuff. And he walked right up in front of us, and he looked right at me.
Ran up, did a moonsault?
No, he didn't, because we know he'd land on his shoulder and be out for 7 months.
And be out for 7 months.
But no, it was after the match was over, and he came over and he gave that kid a hug and took a selfie and gave him his sweatband and everything else that he does. And then he came walking around, and when he got right to me, he looked right at me, and I just looked right at him, and I just went, boo! And he looked at me, he winked, and he smiled, and he walked away, and I went, son of a bitch gets it. He loved that.
He does love it. And that's the thing. I really and this goes against every fiber of my fucking
I know, and that was
being.
that moment where I went,
But
oh shit, he gets it.
Wants to turn heel.
Yeah,
I can see it.
He does.
I can fucking see it. I can see that, as great a guy as he is, and as much as he loves doing the Make-A-Wish stuff, and as much as he realizes how much that means,
and the merchandise,
whatever, and the merchandise, he's fucking sick of it. He wants to be, and I've said this before. I know I've said it to you. I've said it to Mike. I've said it to anybody that I've talked wrestling with, and in regards to John Cena, everybody, talks John Cena and compares him to Hulk Hogan. And in so many aspects he is, where Hogan in the 80s was untouchable. He would never lose, and the only way Hogan would lose is if it was by some nefarious means,
right.
The having, Dave Hebner get, like Earl Hebner or vice versa, or whatever it was.
Right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And all that. And Cena needs that NWO moment, not necessarily creating a faction and all this, but Cena needs that moment. And I think that will be the moment that the business starts to turn again, because that's what happened with Hogan. The business was kind of, you had the Attitude Era starting,
right?
But you had this guy, and we'll wrap up on this because we're getting a little long-winded here.
We are.
But you had that moment where, this guy, Hulk Hogan, was huge in the WWF, and, say your prayers and eat your vitamins, and, the hanging and banging at Gold's Gym, and, the 12 Commandments or whatever they were. And
that's right.
He had the cartoon, and he was just larger than life. And kids loved him. And some of he went down south to WCW, and the fans didn't warm up to him like they did because he was from New York. But younger people probably don't understand that, where there was just that, there really was that if you were made from up north, if you were made in New York, you really didn't make it down south. And
it was that
kind
territory,
of vice versa.
The territory.
It was the territories, which we don't have anymore. I would love to see the territories again at this point.
I would give anything to have Smoky Mountain back.
That moment, and I mean, it gets played all the time, and you get to see it, and it's on every NWO DVD and every Hulk Hogan DVD and every WCW DVD, was that, Bash at the Beach, when it was Sting, Luger, and Macho versus the Outsiders, Hall and Nash. And,
their mystery
WCW was
right.
It mystery third person
that never showed up.
Nobody ever knew who the mystery third person was. And you had, the WCW guys getting beaten down by the two guys that Vince sent to kill the company. And all of a sudden, out comes, Hulk Hogan, the ultimate good guy.
Right.
The ultimate good guy. And he turns on them and becomes Hollywood Hogan. And it changed the business.
It did. Absolutely did.
And Cena needs that moment. And there have been so many opportunities for them to do it.
Well, and I think, and I agree with you 100%. I think what they need is, in their own mind and in Vince's mind, they need a cash cow who can pick up and run merchandise equal to or better than what he does in order to make up for what they're going to lose when that happens. But at the same time,
they had him, but one guy got hurt and will probably never wrestle again. And the other guy that was outselling John Cena was middle of the card, was the champion and was middle of the card.
Mhm.
And, never really got his real WrestleMania moment. So he took his ball and went home. And that was Punk.
Yeah. That's
because Punk was at one point, Punk was outselling Cena. Punk was outselling Cena to the point of the merchandise stands were carrying less Punk merchandise and more Cena merchandise.
And he was still outselling.
To skew those numbers.
Right. Yeah. Well, and
I want the CM Punk. I want the CM Punk ice cream bar shirt. Oh, I'm sorry, we're all out of those, but we have the new purple John Cena shirt.
No thanks.
Here, buy this.
Right.
That's what the fans would do.
Right.
Because you can't leave an event without something.
Yeah. I mean, I try not to buy something every time, but it always happens. It always happens.
Yeah.
But then I agree with you 100% there. And I really think, ending on this point, which is perfect, is as his career wraps up, which is when Hogan did it. Hogan wasn't 20 years old when he turned heel and changed the business. He was in his 50s. Or, I guess 40s.
40s.
Yeah, 40s, because he's 60-something now. But, it's just one of those things where you go, well, that would be perfect. But they just need somebody. They need to put the trust in somebody, which is why I think they're pushing Reigns, because I think they think he's the answer.
I don't have a problem with Reigns being the answer. I don't.
No.
But they're not marketing him well.
No.
He's not. He's got this great look. And he's got this great look, but the look he's got now is stupid. He's the only, and this is we've talked about this before too. And again, we're getting really long-winded here, but we talked about this too, where the Shield broke up. Rollins changed his music. Rollins changed his music and his look. Ambrose changed his music and his look. Reigns, same music, same look.
I am Roman Reigns. Right.
He's not the bassist from Metallica.
Right. If you haven't seen that one yet, check that one out on YouTube. Roman Reigns theme with lyrics. Amazing. Bravo to whoever did that. But I agree with you. What you have is a specimen who is under the age of 30, who is built well. He's a handsome dude. He's a member of the Anoa'i family. He's good looking.
He's horrible. He's
not a great talker.
Horrible. He was horrible. He was a horrible talker. He's gotten a little better.
Because they're not making him do Rudy Tooty Booty or whatever the hell they have Jericho
whatever
saying.
He was doing, the whole tater tots thing was...
Yeah, that was stupid. Right.
That was stupid. But that's the writers putting words in his mouth. And that's the other thing they need to kind of do. They need to kind of loosen the reins on that a little bit.
Right.
Pun intended.
Right. My thought is they need to repackage his look. You have a guy who, if you watch matches from NXT, wore short trunks and regular boots. He had the long hair. You could see the tattoos. He was in good shape. I mean, you got it. It's a full package there. But I think they're afraid of him looking too much like The Rock. And that's what it is they don't want him to look like The Rock. Because then everyone will say, well, he's just The Rock with long hair. Yeah. Like, well, yeah, I guess. But to me, I'm just like, come on, give him something new. Give him a new theme song, for the love of God.
Yeah, even just a new theme song, I think would kind of work wonders for him. And if you don't want to, in a way, if you don't want to change the theme song that much, kind of, and again, he's part of the family, and you don't want to too many comparisons to The Rock, but do what you did with The Rock, where, he had the kind of the nation theme, and then it kind of morphed into what he's got, and then it would gradually change over the times.
But it was the same 4 or 5 notes. And I saw a special on the network where Jim Johnston even explained that. He goes, your basic theme for The Rock is da 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 da. And he goes, it's been that for 20 years. And he goes, all I did was change the drums, add guitar solos. He goes, I just made it different each time. Sometimes it was more hip hop. Sometimes it was more rock. Sometimes it's okay. That's great.
But again, that's one of those, they're that, and I'm a firm believer in entrance and theme music does make the superstar a lot of the times. There are iconic themes that I have on my iPod that come up and just the adrenaline starts flowing. Austin's theme is one.
Yep.
The Rock's theme is another.
Yeah. Hogan, you hear Real American.
Hogan,
you hear that first
American, which wasn't originally for him. It's for Wyndham and Rotundo, but right. It was for US Express. But that's one of those songs. You hear it and you're just like, I could be having the worst day and that song comes on, Real American comes on my iPod, and boom, my day just got better.
Right. But exactly, they're iconic in that even people who may not be as big a wrestling fans as us or you guys, someone hears the glass break, they know it's Stone Cold because he's gone across the medium. You hear If You Smell What the Rock is Cooking, everybody knows what the hell that is.
Yeah.
Most people hear the beginning of Real American. They'll know, oh yeah, that's Hulk Hogan. They just know it because they know it. You hear that kind of stuff. Maybe not the NWO as much, but I mean, for us, that's when you're getting more into like the people who actually know wrestling. You hear that and you go, that's the New World Order.
That might be, but I mean, that might be more into the the more wrestling fan,
right? But still,
but that is an iconic theme,
right?
On my as my phone ringtones, that is Mike's ringtone. I hear the NWO theme.
That's awesome.
That's Mike calling me.
I'm gonna have to change yours to something like that. Then, maybe Girls in Cars or something like that.
No, not Girls in Cars. I think yours actually might be Girls in Cars.
No, man, screw you. You know what? Just because that one, you're getting Barry Horowitz.
Fantastic.
That's
he got the love on the last. He got the love on the last show. That's 2 shows in a row with Barry Horowitz references. Fantastic.
Drink, everybody, drink.
But yeah, you just and that's kind of the other thing now is you don't have that. You don't have that iconic theme coming out
for him.
For him, but even kind of for anybody. I mean, there are certain guys, like I love Owens's theme.
Yeah,
because like Owens's theme comes on, and I just know somebody's getting their ass kicked.
Right.
Lesnar's theme is the same way.
Oh man, dude, when we were in Philly for the Rumble last year, and that triple threat match was about to start, and it was dead silent because we all knew it was coming, and that first noise hits, it exploded. Yeah. And then it's just that shit's about to get real.
Absolutely. So, and I think that's kind of in a way, and it's not really, I don't want to say it's a reflection on Jim Johnson, but there just hasn't been that iconic song. We talked about this when we had taken that road trip that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
We were kind of talking about entrance music. We were talking about Dean Ambrose, and I turned to you and I said, Dean Ambrose's music is that wrestler that we can't talk about.
Pretty much.
And he said, no, it isn't. And I said, yeah, it is. And you played that wrestlers, and then you played Dean Ambrose, and you went,
wow, oh my God, it is. Right. Because I always thought the Kevin Owens sounded like He Who Shall Not Be Named, but I was wrong. I mean, it has a resemblance, but it's not. It's just
it's not. But Ambrose's theme
is a recycled
Benoit's music. Is Benoit's theme song,
right? But you know what the nice thing is? That's why I like the CFO guys that do all the NXT themes. They are now making signature theme songs that when you hear the heartbeat, Finn Balor's coming out. You know what I mean? You hear Samoa Joe's song, Samoa Joe's coming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're starting to switch over, and Jim's been around for 30 plus years, so he's probably the longest employed person other than the Fink now. But yeah, so I agree. Sorry, I kept talking. Let's wrap this shit up.
Yeah.
In a nice little package.
In a nice little package. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
We'll
I
do.
think
I
we
mean,
need
obviously, we'll be back after the Royal Rumble.
after Royal Rumble, and we definitely should be back after the Royal Rumble because we do try to do this show every 2 weeks, but it doesn't always.
It depends on our schedules.
It doesn't always work out. We're busy men. Obviously, one of the members of the Triple Threat wasn't able to make it tonight, so that goes to show you how tough it is for us to get together at times. But we should see it. After Royal Rumble in about 2 weeks.
Hopefully, we have more big news.
Hopefully, we have more big news. Maybe some debuts at the Rumble and kind of a recap and all that. So if you want to give us a follow, you can find us on iTunes and Stitcher. Pretty much any podcast application out there, we should be on. You can check us out at the Channel Z Podcast at WordPress.com, on Facebook.com, on Facebook.com/Channel Z Podcasts. You want to shoot us an email, give us a topic to talk about, or shoot us a question, whatever, thoughts on something. You can email us at channelzpodcasts@gmail.com. You can check me out on the Planet X podcast with Mike every Monday. And I guess we'll see you again in 2 weeks. So I'm Chris.
I'm Tom.
And we need some good wrestling themes. Please.
Yes.